Hi, hello everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Welcome to the workshop of Labflow, CHEM 1406. I put my camera so you can see me. I am Mrs. Mann, and I will be conducting these Labflow workshops each Monday at 1:30. Today's week is about safety. Safety is not a joke. It is very important to work safely in a lab, to avoid accidents, and to obtain reliable data. So today you will have to complete a quiz, answer about 30-some questions, and before that, watch about 8 videos. Starting next week, you will have to complete 12 experiments. Obviously, we are doing this. I'm doing this workshop to help you because we are doing the experiments virtually, and it's hard sometimes to, especially for 1406. Many of you have the first time experience chemistry. So this workshop, last semester, the students that came to the workshop definitely got a much better grade, good grades actually. So starting next week, you will, as I said, you will have 12 experiments. So you will have to go through the experiment, the write-up of the experiment, then there is a pre-lab quiz that you have to complete, and then you will have to do a report. So starting next week, I will give you a quick overview of the experiment, and then we will do problems together that are related to the quiz. So when you do the quiz, that you are familiar with those questions, very similar to the quiz. And after that, I will go over the report to make sure step by step you know how to complete it. But today is different. It's about safety. What I would recommend you is, when you watch the videos, is to write notes. Notes are very important. You can pause the video and write notes. Of course, you have 2 chances. You can do it once and you'll get a higher grade. But sometimes the questions are detailed. And if you don't write it down, you forget. What we are going to do today regarding safety, I will share the page of the Labflow with you, and we'll go over the main points in each video before you complete the quiz. Any questions right there? Okay, so what I will do is sharing the page of the Labflow. Okay, everybody can see the Labflow page. You might want to message me if you don't want to unmute yourself. I just want to make sure that technology is working.
Yes, we can see the page of Labflow.
Okay, so the first question is, did you log in and with no problems? Are you able to get to this page, both of you?
Yeah, I was actually able to watch all the videos and do the lab. So.
Okay, great. Okay, so basically you are done. But we'll go over this anyways. So many students have a problem when they don't find the test, but I guess you don't. So basically you start with the left, and you click here and you watch the first video, and then you continue to the right until you find the safety quiz. Next week, we are going to have the first experiment. So you will be able to read the experiment, watch a few videos. So it's always from left to right. I wanted to make sure that you are familiar with that. But today is safety, so we are going to start with the video on the left. The first video is about using laboratory safety equipment. What are the main points in this video? Do you remember? Some of you remember?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me, I'm going to pull out my notes that I took on the videos, and then I'll unmute and talk about it.
Sure. Sure. Okay, how about Carla or Ho? Any of you have watched the videos yet or not? I couldn't hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
You know, I just want to make sure that you can access those videos and you are able to log in. And I was just asking if you were able to watch the videos, but we'll go over the first one. Let's start with the one on the left. Using laboratory safety equipment. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so everybody, it seems that the first quiz you had not many problems. Okay, so Ho, you said, but I have question. Yes, you can go ahead. What is your question, Ho? Sign up the section of Dr. Segal. Yes, that's perfect. Yes. And what is the question? This is an additional resource. This is a workshop for all, well, at this point, 1406 is Dr. Segal finished the quiz, but received an email saying I haven't signed in. Okay, we will go over that. That might be a technicality. Maybe you didn't submit it, or, but that's something, Carla, that we can talk about. I will stay, we will go over the main points of each video, and then at the end, I will stop recording and I will talk to you and see what is the problem. Okay, so let's start with the first one, as I said. Using laboratory safety equipment. Definitely, you need to be ready for any lab emergency that may come up. So this video is talking about you need to know what kind of safety equipment you have in the lab, where is the safety equipment, and how to use it. That's all it's talking about the first video. I'm assuming that it's hard to imagine how a lab works. What are the safety equipment in the lab? Let's start with just simple. You will have, each lab is mandatory. You will have a safety shower. You will have an eye wash station. You will have a fire extinguisher. You will have a blanket. You will have a first aid kit. All those things are mandatory in the lab. And as I said at the beginning, it's no joke. I come from the industry and I worked in a defense laboratory, and you are dealing with all kind of contaminants. You are dealing with explosives. You are dealing with different kind of chemicals that you cannot store. You have to know how to store. Two chemicals might react. So safety is very important. That's why, even though it's the first one, is you will need to learn for this quiz, and then you will have the midterm exam is going to come back a few questions. But most importantly, it's not only important just to pass the quiz. In the future, if you are going to work in a lab, this is definitely the basics that you need to know. So let's say what this video is showing you. When you watch the video, probably again, you will see that is probably you will remember what I'm saying. What do you do if you spill chemicals on your skin or clothing? Because accident happens all the time. The question is that you need to know what to do. So the safety shower is if you spill chemicals on your skin or on your clothing, you go straight to the safety shower and you basically pull the lever and you stay under the shower for 15 minutes. And why I said at the beginning that you need to write notes, because it might be a question that says for how long you will have to stay in the safety shower. And you probably, if you didn't write a note, you might forget. The questions are detailed. And then, what is the eye wash station for? Well, they are going to talk that if you splash chemicals on your eyes, you will have to keep your eyes open also for 15 minutes with the water, trying to make the water, try to make sure that the water makes contact with your eyes. And then they are going to talk about, okay, what do you do if you have a small fire? Well, if it's very little, they will show you in the video that you can put a beaker upside down just to remove the oxygen, to cut off the oxygen, and then that way you extinguish the fire. They will show you a blanket. What do you do with a blanket? When do you use a blanket? Well, you use a blanket to put out fire if you have on your clothing. If you have fire on your clothing, you basically many of these things you probably know. It's common sense, but you will need to review it here. So basically, you cover yourself with a blanket, and sometimes you roll on the floor. And in this video, it's also talking about an acronym, how to use the fire extinguisher. And they want you to remember the acronym PASS. P as in Paul, A, S as in Samuel, another S as in Samuel. They want you to remember this, so when you encounter a fire extinguisher and you are in an emergency, with that acronym PASS, you will remember, oh, the P is to pull the trigger. That's the first thing you're going to do. Then you aim the nozzle at the base, at the lower part of the fire. And then you squeeze the lever, that is the S, and the second S is to sweep the fire extinguisher from side to side. So this is, I'm just reviewing all those videos to make sure these are the main important points. Always have to inform your instructor. In this case, obviously, you are not in the lab, but you never know if in the future you're going to take another chemistry or you're going to end up working in a lab. And this is mandatory. Any questions so far? Okay. 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 So the second is the second video is understanding the SDS. This is very important. SDS stands for Safety Data Sheets. The SDS are the best resource for information about chemicals. Each chemical has an SDS. When where I was working in research and we had a new nanosubstance or a new compound or a new chemical, the first thing is to write up the SDS. Each chemical has an SDS. What is an SDS? It's key. You want to know as much as you can about that chemical. So before you start working with any chemical in a lab, first question, you're gonna say, where are the SDS? Where? So before you work with a chemical, you need to read that SDS. It's a document that has different sections. You will have the opportunity to look at some of the SDS in the quiz, or you can look for, okay, SDS for ethanol, just to have an idea of all the sections that an SDS has different sections. The first section is always identify the chemical. They give you the name of the chemical, the formula, other names if they are possible. And then they have different sections like the hazard section. What does it say, the hazard section? Basically it tells you, describes the possible dangers of that chemical. And then one thing that is important, and they will ask you about that in the quiz, is about these diamonds that you might have seen that have 4 different colors. Let me share here one of those diamonds. Let me see if I have here. Okay, can you see that? Let's look at the upper. You can actually make it bigger on your screen. No matter if I zoom in here, still you will have to do it on your screen. I'm sure you are familiar by now. You took a few classes on Blackboard Ultra. So let's look at the upper, at this one. This diamond. These diamonds are also included in the SDS. They have 4 colors. You see that the blue color is going to indicate the health hazard information. The red color is going to tell you about if the chemical is flammable. The yellow color is going to indicate the reactivity of that chemical. And that is something you will have to learn because they will ask you in the quiz. And the white will describe if the chemical have special hazard or some handling information. For example, let's look at, we said that the yellow is this one yellow. The yellow here, we said that is about reactivity. Reactivity is very important. And they have a code, actually. As you see on the right, basically there is a rating from 0 to 4. The rating of 0 means it's stable. The rating of 4 is the most hazardous in each area. So let's look at reactivity. In this compound here, the reactivity in the yellow is 4. This is a very dangerous chemical. If you see 4, what does that mean? It means that they may detonate. So when you see in the SDS and you are going to work with a chemical that has a 4, you know that you're working with an explosive. The compound may detonate. If you have a 3, well, if the chemical it has a shock, or if you hit that chemical, it might detonate. It's still dangerous. Number 2, if it has a rating of 2 in the reactivity, what are you gonna say? You're gonna say, it can go through a violent chemical change. If it's a 0, it's stable. So here, there are some examples. Look at nitroglycerin. Has a rating of 4. That means that compound may detonate. Has a rating of 2 in flammability. We said that the red is the section of the flammability. And depend on the rating. What does it mean that it has a rating of 2? That it may burn if it's below certain temperature, let's say below 200 Fahrenheit. If it has a rating of 0, like this one, caustic soda, well, is it flammable? No, it's not going to burn. I don't need to place it in a flammable cabinet. I can keep it outside on a shelf. But if I have a flammable, like ethanol, like it's 3, rating 3, then I will need to use a flammable cabinet and close the door. The same rating goes for the health. If you have a 2 or a 3, the higher the number, the higher the health hazard. And then here are special effects. You see this one, a W that is crossed. Okay, what does that mean? Means that the compound cannot be in contact with water. Here, there is a bleach. It says OX. What does it mean? It's an oxidant. So you will need to learn and review a little bit. This might help you. What is each color? That will be included in your SDS. What else is in the SDS? Because they're very important. What information do you get? A lot. For example, there is a section of exposure controls or PPE. It will tell you if you are using a chemical, what is a PPE? Personal protection equipment that you need to wear. Do you need to wear goggles? Do you need to wear gloves? Do you need to wear a lab coat? It will tell you. It will also tell you if the chemical needs a special ventilation, if you have to work, if it has harmful fumes and you need to work in a hood. So that is that section. There is another section in the SDS that is the first aid section. And that one will tell you basically if you have an accident or if you have eye contact, what to do. And it might tell you flush the eye with water, or what to do if the chemical is in contact with your skin. So that section is very important as well. There is another section, What do you do if the chemical is spilled? And there is another section about firefighting and handling and storage, basically how to store the chemicals safely. How to store the chemicals. When I worked, I was responsible of the safety of a few labs of not in here in Washington, D.C. And I was hired, and that was a defense company. And what happened? When I looked at the different labs, the storage of the chemicals was not properly done. It was very dangerous. Actually, they hired me because there was a previous explosion. So you need to know what kind of chemicals you are dealing with and how to store the chemicals. All this information, you will find it in the SDS. Yes, any questions here? I can hear a caller. Any questions? Okay, okay. So let's continue. So I will share again the page, and then this second video is basically emphasizing the importance of the SDSs, all these different sections. Usually it has about 16 sections, and all of them are very important. Now the next video talks about the video number 3 that you are going to watch, talks about the common safety signs. Once you go each week to the lab, which is not this semester, you will be very familiar with the signs. Before I continue, I have a caller 4496. Is there any way that you can mute yourself? Because I have a noise.
Excuse me?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Is there any ways you can mute yourself and listen to me?
Yeah, I can put it on mute.
That will be great, because I hear a background noise on my computer that doesn't allow me to speak.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem. I still see you that you are not in mute.
Okay.
Okay. Still the same. Okay. Okay, the background noise is a little less though. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue. It seems that it's not easy, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's continue. So we were talking about the third video that is talking about the common safety signs. You are going to find, you will have to be familiar with the safety signs. You are going to find signs at the entrance. What are the kind of signs that you're going to find at the entrance? This video is talking about a sign that will say what PPE is required. If you go into a lab, you need to wear the goggles. That was a fight. Some students don't want to wear the goggles, but it's required. You need to keep your eyes while you are doing the experiment. And also you're gonna see a sign that says no food or drink allowed. This is basic. is basically common sense. But still, there is going to be a sign at the entrance, no food, no drink. Then you're going to see signs, where are the exits? It's very important to know where the exits are before you start working. And you also have to know, he's talking about in this video, that you never block a door that is marked as exit. You need to keep that open in case of an emergency. What other signs? You can also take notes as I'm talking, or as you watch the video before you do the quiz. And then what other signs you are going to find in a lab? Signs indicating where the safety equipment is. We talk about the safety shower. You're going to see a sign of the safety shower, a sign of the eye wash, a sign where the fire extinguisher is, where the first aid kit is. What other signs you are going to find? Where the chemicals are stored. If there are some chemicals stored, like a cabinet that is flammable cabinets, flammable chemicals, oxidizers, different kind of or corrosive chemicals. So you will have to be familiar, you will see that in the video, with all those signs. Also, talking about signs, let's look at this. Some of you know what is this sign? This one, first one. Who knows what sign is that? What does that mean? You see,
I would say it means flammable.
yes, if you see that sign, means that inside that cabinet, there is a flammable. How about the next one? The next one, it looks like similar to the first one, but no, it has a big O here, see? It's an oxidizer. And the third one, the last one, is a sign that you will need to be familiar with, is a corrosive chemical. What does it mean that is corrosive? It burns the skin. It damages the eyes. It's corrosive to metals. So those little signs, you will have to be familiar even though you're not going to a lab. And here are some other examples of other pictograms. We saw the oxidizers, we saw the flammables, we saw this one, and then how about this one? This means gases under pressure. You probably seen oxygen tubes in our lab. We don't have actually that. We used to have in organic chemistry, when we had chromatographs that use gas cylinder, but you still need to learn. If you see this, that means you have a cylinder of a gas. Can be nitrogen, can be oxygen, can be helium. And what do you have to do if you see that sign? You don't have to do anything. Basically, know that, okay, there are gas cylinder there, and they are under high pressure. What does it mean that they are under high pressure? That if the cylinder fell, it can basically explode because they are under pressure. So you want the cylinders to be basically properly restrained or properly strapped. That's all you have to do. If you see a gas cylinder, just recognize that and make sure that is properly strapped. When I was also working in a USDA laboratory, and we needed to change those gas cylinders very often because we had a lot of instruments that needed those gas cylinders. In those cases, you have to know how to replace the gas cylinder, but in this case, you basically all you need to know for safety is, okay, is it strapped? And you need to know that if it fails, it might explode. Okay, so then let's go back to share. I think we've seen, I talked about a few videos. Let me see. Okay, so we talk about the first one, we talk about the SDS, we talk about the third one, which is this one, understanding common signs. And here, the next one is about dressing for the lab and PPE, personal protection equipment. You know, if you're going to go to work in a lab, you will need to dress up accordingly. So this video is only talking about, okay, you need to wear shoes that are closed-toed shoes. You cannot go with sandals. I was working with a PhD, a very, very smart guy, and that was in Washington, D.C., and the winters were very cold, and the guy refused to wear long pants. No matter how smart you are, he didn't have the common sense of wearing long pants. Even though it was very cold, he didn't wear long pants. I'm telling you this because it's mandatory. He couldn't be promoted because of that issue. So you are going to remember this guy. I don't want to say the name. I like this guy a lot. But I'm telling you this story so you will remember that no skin showing from the neck down. You have to be covered in the lab with long sleeves, with long pants. If you have long hair, the girls, you have to tie back that long hair. If you have jewelry that is basically loose, you just remove the jewelry. What else? That's the most important. The shoes, long pants, everything has to be covered. You will wear a lab coat, or you are going to wear gloves. In this video is going to show you there is a technique of how to remove the gloves. Pay attention because I'm going to ask you about that. And it's a little tricky. Okay, they don't want you to touch the skin with the external part of the glove, because the glove is supposed, when you finish working, it's supposed that your glove is contaminated. So you learn a little technique, pay attention on how to remove that glove. What else in this video that I can recommend you to remember? Well, obviously, you are not gonna eat or drink with gloves or with a lab coat on, because you can contaminate. There are chemicals on the lab coat, there are chemicals on the gloves, and even open the door with the gloves. No, no. You finish working, remove the glass, wash your hands, then you open the door. And then another tricky question. When do you remove your PPE? Some people say, well, if I finish, I remove the PPE. No, no. You keep your PPE until everyone is done working. Because it could be that you are working and you are finished, but the person next to you in the lab is still working and he can have an accident. So you keep your PPE until everyone is done working. Okay, so for now, we have seen a few videos. The next one is about what? Video disposing of laboratory waste. Waste is so important. Again, if we are going to do experiments, we are going to have waste. No matter how much we don't want to have waste, we will have waste. Since we have waste, it's very important to learn how to dispose the waste. Why? Because we don't want to injure anybody, and we don't want to injure the environment. Many people had to pay a lot of money, industries, because they were either throwing the chemicals in the water. You have to learn and you have to follow the rules on how to dispose the chemicals. So what in this video is talking about is about basically you will have to separate the different kind of waste. You will have solid waste, you will have aqueous waste, you will have organic waste. If you have sharp syringes in another one, if you have a broken glass, you will have a special box with a bag inside for broken glass. And then it's talking about what to add, what information needs to be in the bottle. We use like a gallon bottles, glass bottles for the waste in school. And what do you need to write in each bottle? What is the chemical content? How much you have of each? If there is a specific hazard? And last but not least, when the container is filled. Because you need to call the people that are gonna pick up the waste, and you need to know how old is the waste. The date is important. There are some chemicals that decompose and become dangerous. So that is also information that needs to be there. Then in this video, they talk also about secondary containers. Well, that's just sometimes you have the waste in a bottle and you want to make sure that it doesn't spill. So you put like a little tray underneath and they call it secondary container, just in case. That's how I put it in the lab when we were working in the lab. So you basically call it primary container at the bottle that holds the waste. And then a secondary container in case it spills or is broken, just to be safe. Another thing that mentions in the video is if you break glass, always use thick gloves to pick up the pieces of the broken glass. Always dispose it in the box of the broken glass. And they also talk about, but we are not going to work with that, but they ask you, they want you to know that mercury is very special. So it needs a special kit for that. And hydrofluoric acid, of course, we won't work with that, but they want you to know in this quiz or in this week. So you remember that mercury and hydrofluoric acid are special and they need a special kit. I think I'm not forgetting, watch this video, I'm not forgetting anything else, but you are going to watch it, and between what I have said and the video and the notes that you're gonna take, I expect you to get 100. I hope so. And then what else is the next one? Cleaning up spills. That is very important. Always you are going to have a spill. Always. It's part of when you cook, you have spills. When you work in a lab, you will have a spill. So it is very important that first of all, you need to know if the chemical that you are using has a particular hazard. So you will look at that information in the SDS, sometimes in the bottle, but mostly in the SDS. And then you need to know where the spill kits are. Sometimes in the inspection, they ask you, where is the spill kit? You need to know just immediately where they are. What is a spill kit? Well, it's a kit that has a bag and some material to absorb the spill, basically. And in this video, cleaning up spills, they will teach you what do you do if you spill. So basically, that is very clear. It doesn't require much explanation from me, but basically they have an absorbent material, and you start with the borders. So you put this absorbing material, you have a liquid in the basically surrounding the liquid, and then you cover the center, and then you scoop all that. You use a dustpan and you scoop all that absorbent material with the liquid. You put it in a plastic bag, then another plastic bag, then you put the name. And what's important is that it's solid, so you are going to dispose that in the solid waste container. That is basically cleaning spills. Okay, and I'm forgetting that if it's an acid, you have to neutralize the acid first. So let's say you spilled sulfuric acid. Okay, you have to add baking soda for acid, and it's going to neutralize the acid, and then you do all what we just said. You put the absorbent material, and if it's a base, you're going to use either citric or ascorbic acid. Any acid, weak acid that neutralize the base. And we already said that hydrofluoric acid and mercury are very toxic and require special procedures. Obviously, we are not going to work with that. And then there is a question that says, what do you do after cleaning a spill? Let's say you did that, you put the name in the bag, you put in the solid waste, and then you come back to the counter where the spill occurred, and you just basically wipe down the area with detergent and water. It's common sense, but just in case. Any questions so far? Okay, so then we can continue. What is the next video? It's a cleaning spills. The next video is responding to an emergency. What is an emergency? if you have a fire, if somebody got hurt, or somebody had an exposure to a chemical and had a bad reaction. So what do you need to know? Basically, you need to know where are the phones, the emergency phones. You have to contact the emergency responders. And let's say you are working and all of a sudden, that happened actually to me, an alarm goes off. They will ask you, what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to be calm because stress doesn't, you have to think what you are doing, but you have to stop. If you hear the alarm, whatever you are doing, and prepare to leave immediately. Before that, you turn off all the equipment. As you have a hot plate or Bunsen burners, you turn off that and leave. So basically, respond to an emergency. That is mostly what you are supposed to do. You are not supposed, but this is common sense, everybody knows, you're not supposed to move an unconscious person in case you have that, unless obviously you have to remove it from that location. But those things, I don't think they're gonna, those things are basic. What is most important is know the location of the phones, stop what you are doing, and prepare to leave and turn off all the equipment. And obviously be calm, because that will help you in the thinking of what to do. And the last video, it says handling and storing chemicals. Remember I said when I started working there, the chemicals were horrible. I got scared on how the system, how were the chemicals stored. So this handling and storing chemical is very important. But for you, the word handling, if you are working in a lab, you cannot, let's say, there are many things that are basics. You cannot put, if you have a, you are working with two different chemicals and you have a spatula. You have a spatula and you use the spatula for the first to remove some of the solid. And obviously you have to clean the spatula or whatever, or the scoop, whatever you are using, before you are going to put it in the second one. Otherwise it's going to contaminate. Another thing is talking. So it's important to be systematic on how you handle the chemical. If you are going to put the same scoop, you're going to contaminate the second chemical. So you have to clean in between. Another common sense here is saying if you have a big bottle, sometimes acid come in big bottles, and let's say you have to pour some acid into a little beaker. Well, you're not going to go straight from the big bottle. You're going to use an intermediate beaker, pour some of the liquid, especially if you have an acid, and then from there you go to your final glassware, especially if you have a burette. And they're talking about a few common sense habits that are important. And I guess I'm not forgetting some. I think I'm okay. So we basically went over mostly the videos. It's going to be another question that it says, what is the best way to smell a chemical sample? Basically, can you put your nose and smell the chemical? It's not gonna be, can be a toxic chemical. You don't wanna put your nose. My boss actually used to smell everything and actually pipette with the mouth, but this is old times. We don't want to smell, we don't want to put in our body toxic substances. So what is the base? You basically use your hand to waft a little bit the smell toward you. This is the way, not just put your nose exactly in the top of the container and smell a lot, a big amount of toxic. Then if you remember, what is, trying to remember mainly, what is the information that you need to review in order to be familiar with the SDS? What are the sections? We said PPE, remember? Handling and storage. Another section was identification, the hazard warnings. So you get familiar with the SDS. What does it say in the first aid measures? What is the first aid measures? They give you recommendation in case you get in contact with a chemical. What does it say in this? What information do you get from handling and storage? Somebody remember when I said it? If it's incompatible or if it reacts with other chemicals. What information you get from the hazard identification? The possible dangers and health effects, right? How about the PPE section? Well, that's easy. It will recommend you what PPE to use. And the identification section is easy too, because it will give you the name and the formula. So I guess I went over the main things. Pay attention if you wear corrective glasses, how you are going to put the goggles, if you're going to put it on top of your I wear corrective glasses. So how are you going to work in the lab? And basically, I would say that I covered the main topics from these 8 videos so far, and I'm hoping when you watch the videos that you do what we said at the beginning, just take notes, because the questions are going to be detailed questions. I hope this helped, and next week is going to be a little different. We have to go, I will give you a quick overview of the experiment. We'll have to pretend you are in the lab. Then before you do the pre-lab quiz, to help you getting ready for the pre-lab quiz, I will give you some problems that we'll solve together. And after that, we are going to go over the report so you know how to complete your report. So I will, I hope this helped. I will stop the recording, but I will stay in case you have questions. And thank you, everybody. You can stay because I would like to answer. I know a few of you have some questions. So thank you.